Hey, Tiffany.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Yeah, you know recently you picked it up here on the newspaper like Wall Street Journal and USA Today.
Yeah.
That's really, really awesome. I'm really proud that you as the governor in my communities appear on those nationwide media. That's really awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm wondering what those pictures and the stories behind what they are all about.
A lot of the stories are basically the firearms community and having a disruption in the community, where we have people that are using the firearms and using them in a bad way, where they're hurting other people, but then you have good people that are coming out and using them to stop the bad guys.
Okay. Yeah, I checked your LinkedIn website. You repeatedly mentioned that you have the very strong determination to have your own gun store.
Very true.
I'm wondering what is the story behind that? What is your internal motivation for that?
Mostly just because being a female in the gun industry, it's huge. We're a very small minority because we actually like guns, and having a woman in the industry who knows about guns is very limited. So it makes women feel very comfortable, it makes new shooters feel very comfortable. Just because you don't have that old gruff guy, behind the counter and trying to tell people this is what you need and you don't need a gun or anything like that. You have somebody who has a soft approach and knows that everybody should be able to protect themselves and just make it so it's a little bit more comfortable and more friendly environment.
Okay, cool. So when I post your pictures and your stories in Chinese community, we call that WeChat. So you got lots of the buzz and feeds. A lot of people want to know who you are and what is the story behind you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Myself? I'm very unique. I'm very outdoorsy. So my whole life I could spend outdoors and I'd be perfectly content. I hunt all the time. I do archery. I shoot long guns. I work with the law enforcement community. I'm a huge law enforcement advocate. So I host about 3 fundraisers a year at least. And they pull big crowds, big money, and it goes to fallen officers or injured officers. I work with a lot of local military groups that are special forces groups and other groups. Just that I'm constantly on the go. At one time I was fluent in 5 languages, and so
5 languages.
5 languages.
Does that include Chinese Mandarin?
Does not include Chinese. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Latin, sign language, English, Russian, and Japanese.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
So since what age you start to practice the firearms or start to carry?
Firearms was 10 years old,
10 years old.
archery was 6.
Archery was 6.
Yeah.
Wow, 10 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Long time.
And how do you, now that you have your gun store, Lynnwood Gunstore here, your own gun store, did you tell us a little bit about the story about this gun store?
Yeah, so it was actually originally owned by Randy Ketchum. He owned it for almost 35 years, and he actually had cancer and closed it down. My ex-husband and I bought the store, bought the name, and put our own inventory in here. Since it's blossomed out of control, it's awesome, and we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so now I'm the only place in the entire state that does news interviews. And so Q13, Como, and Cairo all come in and do news interviews with me. The Seattle Associated Press just started doing news interviews with me, and that's how the picture just completely blossomed. It's gone international. I've made 2 headlines within the UK and 1 in Australia, and I've gone totally national-wide.
So do you got feedback from the other countries like the UK? Do people write your letters? What do they say?
I actually have family in the UK and family in Australia, and so they'll send me an email and tell me that they saw me in the news or they saw my name, because it's pretty rare for an English name, so or for an American name. So being English, it's kind of known over there. So they basically let me know that they see me in the newspaper. That was kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah. Really proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're in the same community.
Yeah.
Really shocked when I read the Wall Street Journal. Wow, it's
me.
I can't believe that. And sister, when you purchased this gun store? Sister, when, 2000?
Almost 5 years ago.
Almost 5 years ago. Okay. Then how do you feel that you have the ownership about a gun store for your dreams? How do you feel?
I love it.
You love it?
Yeah, it's so much fun. And you get to meet all sorts of people and all sorts of backgrounds, and it really opens your eyes to different communities, and it's kind of makes you feel like you're more of the community when you actually know other people in other communities too. You welcome everybody, and you have a lot of maybe international people that come in that are just moving in and they don't know what to do. So we make them feel welcome in here.
Yes, exactly. So that's the question I want to ask you. You know, a lot of Chinese new immigrants, they're very interested about firearms. But unfortunately, back in China, firearms are strictly prohibited from the purchasing store and owning store. When those potential Chinese buyers want to make a purchase, they feel agitated, they feel nervous, they don't know how to encounter with you guys to have what they expect, what is the protocol standard, notice, anything.
Yeah.
Do you have the suggestions for those particularly Chinese buyers?
Yeah, they have federal requirements and state requirements of what they need, and it's actually really simple. And we deal with this every single week. We're actually one of the few gun shops that does this all the time, so we're quite used to it. So all they need is a Washington State ID. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. It can be an ID card, and they have to have a hunter's education card or a range membership. They have to have their current visa, an I-94 document, whether they print it off here or they bring it with them, and a alien firearms license, which they get at the police department. So if they bring up all of that together and they tell me which gun they want, we'll get them started on process on paperwork. It takes about 10 business days maximum to hear back, and it's a pretty quick process.
Cool. Well, next thing, we may notice that this year is the last of the disasters that happens, the Texas church shootings, Las Vegas, and unfortunately,
San Bernardino.
San Bernardino is every instance has the shooting, right?
Yeah.
So as a practitioner in firearm industry, so what is your attitude? What is your comments towards those stuff?
Well, it's awful. It's awful that people would actually do that. And it's sad that everybody pinpoints it just to a mental illness. It's not always the mental illness, it's the person behind it. Now, the firearms don't go bang by themselves. It has to be a person that has a motive behind it.
Right.
And so clearly there was something off with that person, not necessarily just a mental illness is behind it. It's that person's way of thinking.
Okay.
We've noticed with the last shooting that we just had down in Texas that the biggest thing with the left-wing community was that there was somebody who was a good guy with a gun that stopped the bad guy with the gun.
Right. I've noticed
And
that.
so the Seattle AP came out and did my interview, and they were very interested about what I thought with that. And it was more or less of an education of them not understanding that you can be a good guy and have a gun and not hurt anybody, but maybe save lives, because that's their original intention, is to save lives, protect oneself. I mean, that is the Second Amendment. And so people forget that they're not actually dangerous per se. It's like owning a chainsaw. I mean, they can cause a lot of damage if you use them the wrong way, but their intentional design and use is for speed and saving time for knocking down trees instead of having to use an axe. Firearms are the same way. They were originally used as a weapon for self-protection and for military use. They've gotten a lot of movement and speed into the target community and the fun action community, family communities, events and stuff like that, where people actually go out and have fun together. Some of my best friends, we all go hang out at the range because we laugh and we giggle because we know we tried new shots, and they have targets and make it fun, more of a competition, but it's in a safe environment.
Okay.
And so people forget that, yes, these are weapons, but they're also tools.
Okay. So also I want to ask you, do you have any suggestions for female gun owners or those potential female gun owners?
For what kind of firearms?
Yeah. In terms of the choosing firearms, in terms of the purchasing and owning, so do you have general recommendation?
Every firearms can be different for each person. So I always explain to people their best bet is to go to a firing range and go shoot them.
Yeah.
Because what I may love, somebody may hate. And that's for men and women. Firearms aren't biased. They're not biased by hands or anything like that. It's just whatever feels good in your hand. Ways of carrying, it's definitely difficult for women just because the way our clothing sits, the way we walk, what we carry, it's a little bit harder for us to conceal carry. So you really have to be ingenious on how you conceal carry and then really go and see what's most comfortable and practice with it in a safe way.
Okay. Do you encourage females to adopt firearms to protect themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of women they have to remember is that if we carry in our purses, don't put the purse in the driver or in the passenger seat. If you put it in the passenger seat, especially in the summertime, your windows are rolled down. People come up and they can come take your purse. So always make sure you're going to carry in your purse, have it right next to you at all times. Grocery store, dinner, restaurants, anything like that. Always make sure your purse is right next to you, because you have to remember what if it's not within your proximity, you're not going to be able to use it.
Okay, thank you so much. At the last part of this interview, would you tell us what is your daily carry model, pistol and also rifle?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So my favorites, I carry the Glock 42 for my personal carry.
42,
that is
the 380 special,
380,
right?
Yep. Okay. The 380 is just because it's smaller. I'm a smaller French person, so I can fit it in my boot, my pockets, my pants, my purse, whatever. My rifle of choice currently is an SBR because it fits in my backpack, and it's a lot easier just to carry back and forth to work, back and forth to home. It's a little LWRC M6 IC. It's
LWRC. I remember.
That burnt bronze one is beautiful.
I got the same one. I got it.
It's beautiful. That's absolutely one of my favorites. And the little mini AOW shotgun, I have one of those too.
Exactly. Yeah.
So those are my daily carries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank
you're
you
very
for today.
welcome.
And,
absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, you guys.